When I started to look into doing a podcast, I knew I had a lot to share and say, and I wanted to do it in an audio format. I was a little intimidated, not going to lie, about how I was going to go about recording and editing and distributing and all those things because technology is not my strong suit. Naturally. I can learn things. And so when I started to take webinars and ask questions on Facebook and other platforms, I decided that Anchor was the best way to go. It's been a bit of a one-stop shop for me. I can record all of my episodes, I can edit them. It's been really nice because it's free. And when I started to do a podcast, it was, okay, how am I going to rebuild my practice? I had to close my practice down because of COVID, federal mandate. So how was I going to rebuild things? How was I going to give myself something to do? Because this defines me. What I do, it defines me. So I really needed an outlet, and the budget was like nothing. So having this free option has been great. Um, I am recording on my laptop, but I can also record on my phone if I decide that's a way to go, or maybe I don't have my laptop on me. And so that's pretty exciting to know I can do it from there too. They also take and distribute to various apps for people to listen on, which again, that is taking one stressor away from me so I can focus on my content. And if it's something you'd like to do, if you have something you'd like to say, I can't recommend it enough for somebody who's a newbie and starting out. And I feel like even if I wasn't, new at this, if I was, it's been something I've been doing for a while, I would still like this platform because of the ease of everything. So if it is something you'd like to look into, you can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. That's anchor.fm to get started. I'm your host, Carrie Arata, Akashic Records reader, psychic sleuth, and spiritual guide. And this is The Infinite Dance, the Akashic Podcast. Welcome back. Season 2, Episode 2. Thank you so much for being with me, those of you that have been listening for a while. And if you're new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is part 2 of part 1 of Moving in the Time of COVID. My story of my move during a global pandemic. And for the record, it's actually 3 times, but this is pretty much the first leg of it. So as we left off last time, if you didn't listen to episode 1 of season 2, that's the first part. So I'm going to pick up right where we left off. So here I am, stuck in Wells, Nevada. And again, this wasn't really a place that I would have picked out to stop in. And for the record, if you look up Wells, Nevada, and see what's going on there, it is a little town in the eastern Sierra Nevadas. And the Sierra Nevadas are notorious for having great hiking trails, and especially in less populated areas like that, lots of little hidden lakes and canyons and beautiful little spots like that. So, and when you look it up on Google, it says that there's ghost mining, settlements, museums, and cultural centers echo the colorful past of the West. And that's all fine. But of course, I didn't get to experience any of that being on my road trip moving from Colorado. as I started to navigate what was going to happen now, I was like, okay, I'm going to need to get lodging. I believe it was about, oh gosh, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere around that time. And I was parked because there was shade across from one of the gas stations I was trying to get gas at. But it was like a no-name place, and it just, I don't know, it looked a little dilapidated. And so I started to Google places, near, because again, I didn't have a lot of gas and I knew I didn't want to go far and couldn't get gas to, actually stay inside my tank. So I saw that there was a Hampton Inn, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll go there, but it was closed because of the pandemic. And then I found a Super 8 just kind of right down the street from that first gas station that had the gushing gas and that allowed pets. And I was able to park in the shade as I took care of all the business part of getting the room. Yay. Because again, really worried about the cats and the heat. And starting to feel a little bit like, okay, we're just having a recalibration here, just a little blip in the plans. And there's like, a little breakfast nook, with food for the next day. And I saw there was an outdoor swimming pool. And I thought, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit more like, this is just a little bit different from the set plans, and things are going to, continue on, right? So I received a little unit, of course, on the first floor, because usually when you have pets, they have you on the first floor in hotels. And I had this little corner spot, and it was kind of nice because my car could be parked in the shade. And I was like, all right, I was happy for the quiet. Not so thrilled, again, about all the debris around the area. There was like an old vending machine and like hoses just kind of stacked up, but not like in any, order. And so I was like, but what am I going to do? I'm like stuck, right? No choice. And after I get the cat settled into the air-conditioned room, that was the big plus, I called my folks. And my folks are a huge piece to this whole thing of me moving out. Of course, I'm moving back to where I am from. So I knew, of course, family, but we actually all had decided that we were in the process. They had purchased a home in a town about an hour away from Reno. It was a small mountain town in the eastern Sierra Nevadas, not in this area I was in, obviously. And that I was going to live there and pay the mortgage and all the other bills and get settled, because I'm obviously moving to a new area, restart up my practice. The big plan was, we were still in closed down pandemic mode. So I was going to continue to receive the pandemic unemployment assistance, look for work online. And that would be my, segue from the unemployment assistance. Because, hello, that's not something that you think is going to, last, right? So, okay, what's the next thing? Get a job online, customer service, need no special skills, no special degrees. I know people, I can stay safe because, again, my practice was closed down, and, moving out here, a lot of places are still closed down. They're not sure about reopening. And I wasn't in the mindset at that time that I was going to do massage again. And, unsure. Didn't have the vaccinations or anything like that going on. So it was like, I just didn't see that happening soon. All right. So that was the mindset there. The plan: use the pandemic unemployment assistance to pay for bills, mortgage, etc. Look for work online as I rebuild my personal practice, the Akashic Records. And even though that's something I do online, I really enjoy having an office and seeing people in person. That's a big part of what I do. And side note, coming away from this experience, I was really in full-on panic mode at this point. My anxiety was through the roof. I was having a hard time thinking straight. It's like if something went wrong, like the gas, right, gushing out of the nozzle was just so panic inducing. And, there wasn't an ease about all of that. And to me, that's a full-on panic situation. I've had panic attacks before. So I know kind of how those come on and how they feel and how you feel really erratic. And it's really hard to get grounded. And here I am traveling, right? So, so that's my mindset. And looking back, it was pretty high up there. I wasn't in blackout panic mode, but I was pretty panicky. And, but I was starting to feel okay because I did call my folks. And, who else am I going to call? I'm heading to see them. I'm traveling alone with the 2 cats. And I felt like, okay, I'm not alone to try to figure this out, right? Because again, I'm not in the right mindset. And my folks were like, okay, we'll come out there the next day and try to figure out what to do. And I think my dad might have called to see if there was a mechanic or a garage or somewhere, where we could take the car, even in, if we could get it towed to Elko, because Elko was a bigger town that was an hour away. Of course, the desired destination of that leg. So I was like, okay, I had the cats settled in the room. And I thought, well, I'm going to maybe try to just enjoy myself, right? See if I can get some takeout and just relax and calm myself down. I did have enough sense that I knew I needed to calm myself down. And so I went back to the lobby of the Super 8 and to see if they could help me figure out places to go. And so she gave me like a list of restaurants. And, I was kind of had my heart set on Chinese food, takeout. I mean, that's just rice for me is so comforting when I'm in a stressful situation. And, of course, the only Chinese restaurant in the area was in Elko. So an hour away. So that wasn't happening. And by the way, that lobby, whatever they were cooking for dinner, smelled amazing. And I was almost going to be like, can you open up a kitchen? Because even though this town had other restaurants and casinos, everything was closed because of COVID. The only restaurants that were open for business were like breakfast, lunch places. So I was scoping those out for the next day. But it was about 5 o'clock when I was starting to look for dinner. So I set out, again, this area is not very big. I mean, everything's within, maybe 500 yards total, like the bulk of things. So there was a little, I think not 76, but Chevron. And so I went to the Chevron to see if they had anything, because it looked like they had some kind of food truck. And they said, oh yeah, sometimes we have barbecue, but the guy isn't there that day. And I was like, oh, and he's like, but there's another food truck, just across the way right there. And they're open for dinner and they're Mexican American. So you go check them out. So I did. And I was like, okay, great. I can still get my rice, right? My comforting bowl of rice. And there was another couple there. And, we were all kind of either keeping our major distance. It was outside. It was a food truck. But I think they stayed in their car. He might have gotten out. They had a puppy with them. And I was like playing with our puppy or something, which was kind of nice to have, puppy energy. But they had ordered burgers, and I was like, oh, I was really kind of, had my heart set on like a plate of food, and a burger really wasn't on the agenda. So I ordered a taco plate, and I was like, oh, this will be fine, beans and rice and the tacos. And so I got the food and went back to the hotel, and I thought about sitting around the pool, but there were some people there and I just didn't feel like socializing, so I just ate in the room. I was kind of hungry by that time too, because I just had green juice all day and maybe some snacks again, because I quickly go to the restroom and get food when I'm on the road with the cats in the car. And I go to put my fork in the rice, and it was hard and crunchy. It was more like a brick of rice as opposed to a bowl of rice. Wah wah. So much for that little comforting bit. And I thought, well, maybe after I ate, I would feel better. Maybe I'll just go for a dip in the pool. Again, it's really hot, even though it was like 6 by this time. It was still like probably, 90 degrees outside. And that sounded really nice. But again, I looked out and there was people there, and, they were having drinks. I mean, it didn't look like they were getting crazy or anything, but I was like, I don't know. It just didn't sound great. So I thought, well, maybe I could take a bath, because there's actually a tub in the bathroom. And I was sat down to go to go to the bathroom on the toilet. And when I went to stand up, the toilet kind of like came out of the ground, right? And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? What's going on? And, I'm feeling so ungrounded and so panicky and so anxiety ridden, and this toilet's coming up. I'm like, I'm not going to attempt to take a bath. And that toilet situation, kind of moving, I don't know if you've ever had that happen, really helped to earn that 2-star status that this hotel weighs in at. So I just crawled into bed, and the one that wasn't lopsided, there was 2 beds in the room, and one was clearly not even, and so I was not going near that one. And dozed off watching reruns of the Golden Girls, wondering how I'm going to coax my cats the next day out from under the bed. And the beds were on metal frames, so there was space under them. Like a lot of times at hotels, they have solid frames, like solid wood frames. So, there's you couldn't get underneath the bed. And so that was kind of like, yay. But I was really tired by that point, and I just thought, all right, we'll figure it out tomorrow. So the next day, that one restaurant I had scoped out, Bella's, had breakfast and lunch. They ground their own, they made their own coffee. And I thought, oh, perfect, right? And so I sat down, so excited I could get gluten-free toast or pancakes. That's always just such a bonus. I think they might have even had some gluten-free pastries. And there were also stories, because I kept saying, wow, this is so amazing that you guys offer such good coffee and have gluten-free options. You must be really, really busy. I'm surprised there's not more people in here. And it was run by, I believe, a woman and her husband, but it was like a family affair. So I think it was like sisters that were on the floor that day. And they said, no, the town of, 1,200 people town is divided because their grandma owned a brothel, and I guess maybe she still does, or it's still, I don't know. But there was something about a brothel, it is Nevada, and, some people really didn't like that, and so they wouldn't come eat at their restaurant. And I was like, well, I don't know. The food was good. I was happy to have a warm plate of food without having, a brick for rice and have my gluten-free options. And so I did that because I knew my parents were making their way to Wells, and it would take about 6 hours. And I was just feeling like, okay, help is on the way. To figure out what to do, what to do with my car. Am I going to have to take it to a garage? What's going to be wrong with it? I just spent $3,000 on the head gasket replacement. So it was daunting to think there's going to be something else wrong with this vehicle that I just purchased, 6 months prior. So I was cussing out that dealership again. So my parents show up like, I don't know, maybe like around 11-ish, I want to say. And they're in 2 separate cars. And I'm like, why are you guys in 2 separate cars? And somehow my dad thought this was a good idea. I'm still uncertain why. He had some logic behind it. Something about I'm not sure. He thought he might have to stay out there. Then my mom and I could go back to the house to bring the cats. I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, but they were there. And here we all 3 were with our 3 cars. And my dad says, let me just try to take the car to the Chevron gas station right there. Let me just try putting gas in. So he takes Imogene to the pump, and voila, gas goes in and does not come gushing out. Dude, I'm feeling super bad here. I mean, they just drove 6 hours in separate cars in 100+ degree heat. Oh. So obviously this was a heat thing. And I guess maybe the year of the car, because it's an 09. A lot of times cars have that where, obviously we all fill up our tanks, in really hot weather and don't have this problem. And so I guess mine doesn't have that. Whatever would help the gas, not come gushing out. So, all right, at least a big financial burden is probably not on us now. And time's a wasting. I'm thinking, let's get those cats into the car, and reen ho ho, as I affectionately call it. Here we come. Now, I'm looking forward to obviously getting to this first destination, my parents' home in Reno. And the plan is the home in Blairsden wasn't going to be ready yet. Like we were told we'd have another couple weeks. And so I would just hang out at their house, and, that would be fine. And, moving to a small town, like a really small town, like the small Blairsden, is super small. But the idea was, well, I'm gonna be inside anyways because we were pretty much on lockdown still, and I'd be working from home, right? This was the plan, to work from home. So it didn't really matter that the town itself was small, and it was like, oh, lots of trees, lodgepole pines, lots of lakes. Um, Excellent. I can really regroup and get outside. I love being outside. Um, while we've all try to figure out what's going on with the world. Um, and it seemed like that was a very feasible plan. You know, have the unemployment assistance. I'm going to get a job online. I'll slowly rebuild my practice when I can start getting out and seeing people, vending at events and whatnot. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Well, not so much. Um, and thank goodness that the drive to Reno was drama free, except, that it was hot, but hello, it's just hot. Um, but the cats are panting, and I was, worried still. Um, so I think about 10, not quite 10 days, maybe about 10 days, and my items are coming from the movers, right? And it was a broker. I went through a broker to get these movers. It wasn't directly with them. It was some broker, which I still don't understand how I chose that. But don't do that. Just go straight through a moving company. Don't go to a broker. I think it's a little bit less expensive, but the headache is worse. Anyways, so this big truck comes and they said, you have to make sure you have enough room on your street. And thank goodness these streets are wide, because it was a big Mack truck that had my stuff in it, and, however many other people stuff. And we are just like, we'll just unload it in my parents' house, because again, a couple weeks, no problem. I'm not going to get a storage unit for a couple weeks. And so here I am at my parents' house in Reno with, all of my belongings, strewn about the house. Any empty space, was a spot for a box or my mattresses. And, waiting for that move-in date for 2 weeks. And talk about being in limbo, just being around all your stuff at your parents' house, trying to wait on the next move, was a lot. And, the move-in time, like the 2-week timeline, came and went. And we were still not able to get the keys to the home. We were waiting on the inspector. And I know that sounds weird, but because there were so many people buying homes at this time, this office and the was just backed up. I mean, they were so backed up. So we're waiting for the inspector to do what he needs to do, amongst all the other million people. And, it's literally the last thing. The papers have all been signed. The earnest money's been, deposited and cashed. So we're really ready to go. And it was about this time, and I'm not sure why I didn't before. This could be a little bit of a prelude to things to come, but I told my mom I'd love to see the area in person, because I'd actually never been to this area, and they had a bunch. And so my mom and I decided to make a drive up there and check out the house and check out the area, maybe get some lunch, etc. So, we don't have the keys yet, so we knew when we would get there, or in my head, we would have to get a hold of the realtor, um, which should be no problem, or just get a lock box combination, because usually those are on the homes still at this point. Now, I had taken a drive up to this area before, not quite to Blairsden, but there's a little town called Sierraville that you can get to that's before Blairsden, and it happens to have one of my favorite Northern California hot springs, Sierra Hot Springs. And the drive is gorgeous. Once you get off 80 and you turn off on 89, it's just 2-lane, little winding road full of trees, and you can see the sky still for all that way. So you've got the blue against the green trees, and there's lots of open meadows. I mean, it's really a pretty, it's a drive I've always looked forward to. Again, I know I'm going to the hot springs, so and I usually have like one of my favorite, musicians playing. So I've just got this great soundtrack going too. I think the last time I took that drive alone, I had Bass Nectar going. I think I've mentioned him before, but goes good with trees, goes good with a lot, and nature and driving through nature. I thought Blairsden was like another, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. I didn't think it was that much further past Sierraville. When we turned onto the California 49 from 89, it kind of does this little jog where it goes from 89 to 49 and then back to 89. I suddenly became so super anxious. I was really irritated, like full on, like grumpy pants just, hit me. And I got full body chills. And that's where we're going to end for today. Next time, part 3 of part 1, the Blairsden experience. And that's going to include a horrendous realtor, an outrageous electric bill, some bad ferries, some boundary pushing men, and also some amazing hikes and lakes every 10 miles. So it was definitely an experience in every sense of the word, and some major generational healing. But that'll be next time in part 3, and that'll be the last part of #moving in the time of COVID. Again, if you would like a reading, you can go to ancientbodyworks.co. And by the way, I am so grateful to my parents for all their help in this experience. This has been quite a life-changing experience, and they've been there the whole way for this part, like in every sense of the word. So I am absolutely so grateful to them. We are so different in so many ways, but their support and assistance and willing to do stuff, like it's kind of, they don't really think about it. It's just automatic. I am beyond grateful to them. And you can reach me also at on Instagram at Ancient Body Works. I am also have the Infinite Dance Facebook page. You're welcome to be a part of that. I have a great workshop coming up. The Infinite Academy is my very first workshop under that umbrella, and it's going to be on discarnate souls, miasms, and stalking entities. So what do we do with, basically ghosts, and how to decipher why they're there and why they're around you, why they're attached to a place, to figure all that out. It will also include ritual and guided meditation. And you can also find links to that on my website, ancientbodyworks.co. And I thank you for tuning in to my stories. I am looking for more guests with stories. Hashtag moving in the time of COVID, or just COVID stories, pandemic, how it's changed your lives. Also, if you have discarnate souls, ghost stories, and you want to know more about the soul business between you and these souls you've been interacting with, I would love to have you on the podcast, either as a guest, or I could read your story from an email. So there's options. And I hope you continue to ask all the questions, keep peeling back the layers, and keep asking yourselves and each other, may I have this dance?